white walls, no pictures, Monday morning. Feels like home, eh?
Sounds just about right.
Right? I'm going to go to Corey's house someday and hang up some of my photos because I'm actually a pretty decent photographer, just so that, like, you know, I don't feel like I'm...
So it's not boring?
Just, dude, that's like...
At least this is like something.
It's what every house in Japan... it's what every house in Japan looks like, is that, except for mine, you know. We got a fun show today. We got round table educators, I guess, founder, team member Maki. I want to call you Mickey, but Corey keeps correcting me, and apparently it's Maki.
Well, this is what I was told. What should we call you?
Maki is totally fine. The full name is supposed to be Masaki, but it's okay.
Yeah. All right. Just as long as we're not just brutally fucking it up over and over and over again.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I heard way worse.
Yeah, fair enough.
So Maki's done some interesting stuff for us over the last month or two. Yeah, Corey?
Yeah.
So, who are you, Maki, and what do you do? And then we'll fill in what you missed, because I think you're quite a modest guy. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've dabbled in quite a lot of stuff. And still involved with quite a few things here. How do I start? So, mostly focus on the education side of things, mostly because I've had a lot of first-hand experience teaching in rural communities, and I was actually a commissioned rural educator that was flown to places that you normally would never travel to because it's so isolated, it's so out there.
For example, like the Yukon Territory, for example.
We actually were planning to have a rural outreach that far, but we're restricted mostly to British Columbia of Canada at the time. But it's a big province, and there's a lot of small communities over the mountains that are some places are really hard to reach by roads. You fly there. Yeah, so I did that for about a full year before I eventually come to the conclusion that we take a lot of things for granted. You know, you go to those communities and you realize that there's some really awesome people there. I have no idea how they ended up there, but they just don't have the same kind of resources we have. And some resources we take for granted is just education. So I was really, impressed with what they have out there. And also at the same time, I was already pretty entrepreneurial minded. I wanted to have some kind of business I can call my own. So I basically drafted the foundation of what became eventually RT Educator, which stands for Roundtable Educators. Like King Arthur's Roundtable of Knights. So we had a roundtable of different educators. Yeah, so that's the story of how the company, the idea was conceived. But a lot of things changed since then. I had to move quite a bit. I was always changing, in a sense, what I wanted to teach on, because education is really wide spectrum. It could be anything, right? And I want to break out of the shell of what is your traditional academic education. So you got your science and your arts and your music and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So that's where I am today. Teaching all sorts of different things, ranging from crypto trading all the way to career planning, all the way to university level programming courses, all the way down to elementary math. So it's all over the place. And a lot of it comes from my personal experience teaching all these subjects that people normally think, oh, you can just get it from school, but they don't offer it because we take that for granted. To where courses that should have been taught at schools are not being taught at school. So I'll give you something very interesting. I was actually listening to this yesterday. It turns out that at this moment, in a lot of South American South American countries. So like Argentina, Chile, Peru, these countries, they are actually creating courses, and it's becoming mandatory for their high school kids to learn about cryptocurrency. They're actually making this mainstream in those countries. And I was really happy to hear that, because it was about couple months ago, I realized that, hey, everyone's talking about crypto, and then there's this big thing out there that everyone is exposed to, but a lot of people are very phobic against it. They have a wrong conception of what crypto really is.
Well, that's because we live in the West, where understanding economics is, against our government's better.
It's frowned upon. Yeah.
No, but like Corey, maybe like you can pipe up here. So I'm gonna kind of throw you in the mix here, because I actually missed it. I caught a bit of the recap, but you were on, with somebody from, was it El Salvador?
Yeah. I mean, they're based out of Miami. Joey created that the immigration office basically to facilitate people, crypto people specifically, moving down to El Salvador, because they just adopted Bitcoin as legal tender or whatever. It's sort of a big deal. But yeah, we ended up having tons of conversations, or a wide range of conversations, I should say, about the just the position that all of this is in the world. And how, down there, educating the people of El Salvador about this stuff is kind of the highest priority. It's massively low hanging fruit, because a lot of them just don't get it yet, right? Like the economic ramifications of having a currency that isn't the dollar. There's so much behind the scenes levers of control if small countries are using the dollar, that getting more of their market cap, more of their economic activity onto anything else, right, has the ability to basically make them more free. I mean, it can be extremely constraining, running everything through the dollar, because I mean, you're at the whims then of any storm that goes through global economics. You're quite frankly at the whims of the American government in a lot of ways. It's just it's fraught. Like, it's not, it can be a good situation if your alternative is Zimbabwe's currency going completely and totally insane, right? It's better than that. But yeah, having the sort of almost like a relief valve of having more and more capital that can go into Bitcoin is good. In the short term, it's good, even though we're going to still see fluctuations, I think, this year in the price of Bitcoin, right? Like, it could go down, whatever. Yeah. But over any 4 or 5 year span, the more your citizens are exposed to crypto and learning about it, the more you're going to be prepared for what's coming. I honestly, economically, it's the equivalent of a lot of African or a lot of third world countries never getting phone line access, like landline access to towns, and skipping right to cell phones. Right, that's countries that are skipping to this new economic standard are going to be accruing the same amount of benefits over the next decade.
Yeah. If you don't have a way to not be manipulated by foreign currency, basically, then you basically are always putting yourself in a position where you're kind of the buffer economy for these other global powers. Yeah. Because if anything happens and, like say they're like, there's going to be a recession or there's going to be some kind of stuff, you're the person that takes the hit first before and then if the economy comes in cyclical patterns, right? So they will always try and make everyone follow their rhythm and follow their steps. Whereas if you go into the Bitcoin economy, then it's like decentralized. That's the whole concept of decentralized DeFi, right? So yeah, everyone can take that into their own hands. But
yeah, not to mention that just the fact that a lot of these countries that do go into hyperinflation, right? That they're at the whims of essentially major loans that came from the West, for development that they've got no chance of paying back, right? So.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much geopolitical stuff, but I follow a lot of these examples with foreign interested investments in your country, and then most of these don't turn out too well at the end of the day. One clear example would be, what the Chinese investments did in Sri Lanka, which result basically in a massive land grab. You can't pay back the loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's interesting people doing interesting things in interesting ways, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it has to do with getting land. I mean, and yeah. So one of the things that you do, well, you did a couple interesting things for us over the last month, which we'll dive into probably after Corey puts up some gratitudes. But just while he's finding his way over there to Uplifters Tower. A couple of things that we'll dive into. You actually introduced us to Cash to Crypto, where we had Graham on the show a couple of weeks ago, which was great. They're a fiat to crypto exchange based in Western Canada, and looking at going, international. And you also are one of the geniuses of the teams behind a series that we kind of put together for anyone, but you're the only one that really uses it, which was a playback reel of videos of events. So we'll play a couple of those later.
What is going on?
You're jumping all over the place.
Yeah, there's some weird juju in the freaking server right now. Every time I stand there, it's like booting me away.
So you found Doctor Strange's vortex, I think.
Something's fun.
That's
interesting. All right, well.
Yeah, well, it sounds a little bit not as nice to call it a byproduct, but it really is kind of what it is. When you're in the education sector, you come across a lot of really interesting peoples, and you usually have to make judgments in a very polite way, of course, to always look at things and people in the best way that they have to offer, especially from my company philosophy, where you're inviting like knights to the round table, right? Not every night is perfect. Each night have their own strengths and their own flaws. But
you've never been on a date with Jimmy D. When you go on a date with Jimmy D, every night's perfect. I'm just gonna say
it. Well, there's a reason why I like hanging out with you guys, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean,
I don't know. I think you're probably better than me, right? Like I have a postgraduate degree in education. I'm really bad at biting my tongue, especially when I'm teaching things like economics, right? Like value, adds. Like I grew up in Canada in southwestern Ontario, but I lived in Japan for years, and actually, to be honest, like the elementary education system here is pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we tried to do what I'm not sure if you ever went through that, or if you were always in Canada, Maki, but that elementary education system here is great. But if you did what they do here, like you'd be arrested, you'd be thrown in jail for like child slavery, right? Like, because can you believe it, man? They actually make the kids clean their own classrooms here. I mean, it's insane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I think, like, from an elementary perspective in Japan, it's a really good system, right? But like when they get up to the high school level, it's all test based. It's all rote memory learning, which gets thrown out. Like it's more akin to the U.S. System of the SATs. But the difference is when you get through that system in the U.S. and you go to university, you are held accountable for what you learn. Whereas in Japan, it just becomes fun time with Mr. Denver's CEO president's son to make those connections to move on up in the corporate company world. So I teach university here, which is okay because it's not that difficult, but it's not like teaching a university at home. But like teaching economics in Hawaii was really bad because I taught at a private private Catholic school basically. And, yeah, they don't like truth at private Catholic schools when it comes to business and economics. It's not what the textbook says, right? Corey, what was it like? When did you first figure out that economics didn't work? Like, how old were you?
What's that?
When did you first figure out that economics didn't work? Like, I didn't figure it out until I was a teacher, really.
I mean,
right? Like,
define doesn't work, right? Because like
yeah, that's a good point.
In a lot of ways, this all does work, right? Like, you know, especially if you're already rich, works really, really well. It even works if you look at the unless like don't look at the States on child mortality rates, but look at the rest of the Western world. Not that the healthcare system in the United States is pure raging fucking garbage, but it is. Again, unless you're rich, then it's pretty good. Yeah. But if you look at you know, child education rates globally, if you look at you know, again, child mortality rates globally, just a bunch of other key metrics as a species and civilization, this economic system works really, 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 really well, right? We're just seeing it from like the obvious inequities of it, right? The obvious problems, because the problems are always going to be louder than you know, anything that it's actually accomplishing. Especially when like nobody's going to write a news article on, you know, child mortality rate going down, you know, 1% every, you know, 6 months, or, you know, child education rates going up, you know, 1% every 6 months or whatever, right? These are like just insanely amazing, but we don't track those things, right? It's too slow.
I like how you're mixing all those things together. Like, I can't do that. I mean, like in that part, you're right, but like, dude.
But I mean, like, economy is like the slowest, biggest
rug pull of all time.
Well, maybe, right? Like, I've been thinking a lot about the whole inflation thing, and like one thing we know for sure economically is that the rich need to get taxed way more, right? Like just way more, right? Like the highest increase in productivity and middle class income was in the 50s, right? And you know, 40s as well, right? And the tax rate, the highest tax rate was 90%. 90. Like there was effectively a maximum wage, right? And I'm not saying we should go back to that, but like everybody, you know, crying about, you know, capital gains now, it's all fucking racket. As someone who is going to be moving into this strata myself, right? It's a thing that is sort of unmistakable. So here's the interesting thing: how do you tax people, Jimmy, without taxing them?
I guess you increase the. I guess you increase the. Yeah, you print money, but well, that's true.
That's it, right? Like they're never going to get a tax hike passed. And the Republicans are actually the most guilty. Sorry, this is like American specific of printing money. They just don't tell you where they're printing it to, and they definitely aren't doing it for you, right? But it's the same thing, whether it's, you know, a military or tax breaks for the wealthy, yada yada. It's still technically printing money, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so now essentially the amount of buying power that super rich people have is going down. The amount of buying power that like poor people have is also going down, and like the price gouging that's going on, or whatever. It's like there's like a weird balance going on, right? Because you have a situation where you know the odds and ends are you know, getting more expensive, and that obviously is pain. But most people have more disposable income, so that actually it works out at the middle and bottom ends. Anyway, and this is totally a fringe theory of mine, so fucking don't listen to anything.
Well, see, I'm a little bit jaded here because actually, in a way, what you say makes sense because America's always been good at like capitalizing upon like things as they were intended to be. But I'm coming from Japan, which is bizarre. Like, you know, we still have houses that are affordable here. They still cost you 35 years to be able to, you know, pay a loan and a down payment on. But like, they're still affordable. They're not in Canada. They're not in America for the lower classes, right?
Huge market bubble going on here, and in real estate. Yeah,
whereas
I saw something actually. It was a friend of mine, and Maki, maybe you can speak to this. Like it looked as if the housing cost versus disposable income was actually way worse in Canada than it is even down here. Can you speak? Is that real?
So here's the funny thing. Canada as a country is very extreme on both spectrums. You got places where the affordability living, that's basically what you're talking about, is your disposable income versus what you can put towards your homes or your mortgage or rent and stuff like that. Like
Right.
pick example, you know, they claim the most beautiful city to live in, like Vancouver. Well, I think it was on the year 2007 or 2006 or something like that, where they literally found out that the affordability of housing there was the last place of all cities in the world. It was worse than New York, worse than Tokyo, worse than Shanghai, actually. Because you're looking at people who are, on average, okay, holding on to actually debt. So people's disposable income just already not there. They're just struggling to pay rent in the first place, right? And yet you got houses where you could just look at, I don't know, a small apartment condo, for example, that would be costing of $1.7 to $2 million Canadian, and it's just insane. It's like the mom and pop idea of, if I work extremely hard from age, you know, what not, and save, and I can eventually own a place for my family. That is not possible for a lot of people, and that's the extreme end of that in Vancouver. Now, of course, people will play the millennial game. You know, the generation, the cohort of that group are just, you know, lazy. They don't work hard. Blah 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 blah. You hear a lot of that, but of course now there's a lot of pushback against the boomer group. You know, but I tend, from my educator point of view, I tend to think that as distraction for the media to throw the discord between the age groups. So instead of them working out the problems together, they're making it harder for them to focus on the problem and help each other out. And the real problem right now is the issue where your wages hasn't really improved for the past how many years, and yet all expenses are now going off the roof, right? And if you look at the tax gone up indirectly, inflation's going up. So I don't want to go too much into the macroeconomics of it, but it's quite apparent that the kind of wages that people used to take, again, for granted is still available. Those wages are still there, but they just haven't grown, while the cost of everything has just exploded. But that's only the extreme end of a very preferential city like Vancouver, right? Or like Toronto. But if you go to other places, I'm not saying they're less desirable, but they're just less popular on the real estate hit list. Like you go to Edmonton, right? I moved here for 3 reasons from Vancouver. One was I had a career opportunity. I was invited to be part of the established hemp company. And at the time, hemp and marijuana was all the rage in the world. And the company was very interesting. And I was invited on board as a science advisor. So I never mentioned my... Yes, you would have been perfect, Jimmy. That's actually correct. So I never mentioned my background from my education degree here. It's got nothing to do with education. I'm actually one of the most nerdy people that you can imagine. So I'm one of the first graduate from the environmental science in University of British Columbia. I had to customize my degree because environmental science at the time was such a new field. They didn't really quite know what to do with my my course programs and my credits. So I ended up having something in specialization of, computer science with modeling. So like mathematic modeling, predicting trends, predicting the future. That's another reason why I'm in a lot of stock trades and Forex trading with bots and stuff, right? Because I wrote a script for recognizing patterns and trade on those patterns. I come from the background where it's all science, it's all computations and stuff like that, and it's quite a far stretch with how I've moved from what I graduated from to where I am right now. But anyway, back to our discussion on housing and stuff. So I moved to Alberta, and I realized 2 things right away. The gas is so much more affordable. It's actually a reasonable price for what the gas is.
That's because it oozes from the ground.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, even though I can't say the same for now, it's still, way cheaper than elsewhere in Canada, where I look at the price, I'm like, how do people survive on this? Right. And the second thing is, there really isn't anything less desirable in Edmonton there is compared to Vancouver. If you are keeping an open mind about what's available to you.
I mean, hold on. Okay, first thing, Edmonton won last night. It was the first hockey game I've watched in a long time, and I was like yelling at my TV like a crazy person. It was very nostalgic watching the Battle of Alberta and getting treated to an absolute freaking stomping of Calgary. So that's fun. But I mean, I lived in Edmonton for a long time. Compared to Vancouver, I like they wouldn't even compare. Now, granted, huge fan of the ocean, huge fan of mountains. So like, if what you like is dirty brown snow and like tiny hills, then Edmonton's great. As you know, I mean, I shouldn't shit on Edmonton, like because like it can be a very beautiful city, but I definitely wouldn't compare it to Vancouver.
Yeah, there's the seasonal benefits, you know, like nicer climates and stuff like that. But you see, from where I used to live in the Hokkaido region, which is Hokkaido. Also a very beautiful place, Sapporo. But the winter is just as bad. You know, if not, I think it's actually harsher.
That's the first place that I lived, like when I came to Japan. It was up in Hokkaido, and it was this pretty much the same winter as Toronto. I think it was maybe a bit warmer back then, but like, yeah, I was lucky because I lived right in the center of the mountains, so there wasn't very much wind. It was quite nice, but like Sapporo can be bone chilling and cold. People don't know this, right? Like they think that Japan's really warm, but it's super hot and humid in the summer. But really nice place to go, you know, in the summer, but like not the best place necessarily to be in the winter.
Yeah. Well, hey, give me some gratitudes, guys, and it's still open for anyone in the comments as well. Zestra, good morning. Good morning.
Oh, I actually came to see chat.
Oh yeah, you can pull it up on YouTube if you want. Otherwise, we'll try and get better at posting them up there. So yeah, Maki, what are you grateful for?
So I'm a hard follower of the Bushido code.
Okay.
Refined version, so I'm not like your stuck in the middle age deadpan samurai. I'm grateful for still being alive to fight the battle another day. I live on the mantra that I never know when I could die. I could just drop dead tomorrow for all I know. So every day is a battle where I just fight with my fullest, so that if I do just somehow end up dead tomorrow, then I could just say to the Buddha that, you know, I'm not religious or anything, but that's, you know, Buddha's example. It could be the Lord. I could just say that I gave it all my all.
Right, you left it all in the field. No, I love that. Just that. Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for that, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the creative videos of Roundtable Educators.
Oh, thank you.
How old were you when you left Japan?
I left Japan to basically do so it's like, you know, in Japan they have junior high, middle high, and senior high. It's not just one like high school level, right?
Right.
So I basically left Japan when I just finished my junior high.
So your Japanese is definitely better than mine.
Age. I don't remember my exact age when I left Japan, but yeah, it was the equivalent of what had been grade 8 in Canada.
We should do another show sometime where we do it all in Japanese. It'll last about 10 minutes, so that's about my cap.
You can talk to me in Japanese if you want to, but my Japanese is no longer that good. I haven't had much opportunity to really speak Japanese after that, and my Japanese is very rusty to begin with. Yeah, I got 3 years, and that was it. 3 years of, and it's not like in North America where they have like secondary language assistance program, thing like that. It's just boom, you speak Japanese, you learn Japanese.
Well, I mean, at least you're not from Kagoshima, because you could be there your whole life, never leave, and nobody would still understand you, right? I mean,
yeah.
Inside jokes. So yeah, we put Corey. Maybe I dropped one in the private chat. You've done Masaki and the Roundtable Educators have done 3 really great video recaps.
Yeah.
The first one was, I think, of the first ever Coliseum PvP event that we did over at the Cost Effective Coliseum in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of how we, learned about how skilled you guys were. The second one, I believe, was the fishing derby, which I think we're going to show.
Yeah.
From Chia's second fishing derby, maybe. And the third one was one of the Grand Exchange. I think it was the Dracula Raceway.
That's right.
Over on Gratitude, they built this big racetrack, and they do events every Saturday. That was my favorite, actually, because I remember Corey and I watched that and cracked this up, the bloopers that you had at the end. Well, we asked you earlier which one you wanted to show, and you said you liked the calm, relaxing one of the fishing derby. So yeah, let's give it a watch and
sure
see what these guys are up to, if you don't know, because they're pretty fantastic. You're not showing your screen, Craig.
I am so fired. I thought I had it up there. You'd think we'd be pretty good at this by now. Nope. All right. Sorry, guys. Yep.
So, I mean, I was actually surprised. You guys put quite... Okay, let's see this one too.
We can watch this one. Oh, there's no sound on this one.
No, there's sound. They all have sound.
It comes in a bit late.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's up? And scene.
Huh?
Oh yeah, that's fun. Oh, there's still some left. Sorry.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, you guys. So you were saying, you know, you guys actually go through like hours of photographs and video footage to make one of these.
Oh yeah, yeah, and a lot of these things were non-informed in advance, so we weren't even aware on exactly when the event was gonna happen. We have maybe at best maybe 1 day notice, and we gotta quickly figure out a lot of things to prepare for the recording of the raw footage, contacting with the photos, and everyone's got their schedule, so you're trying to coordinate. That's both from the event organizer's side and also from our video editing team. And also what we're doing is, because this is, even the video making part is educational, because we're always trying very different style, different approach, different perspectives. That's why if you look at all three videos, you get three very different feel for the event and three very different mood, three different purposes. The last one you just saw, the GE Grand Exchange one, that was more as a TikTok video that we meant to chop up into bits and pieces and put on TikToks. That's why you have like the meme-like music, the bloopers, you know. These are, the very last one was our experiment for doing a marketing campaign to feature events in Uplift World. So people will be like, oh, that's cool. I want to come and I want to try this event. You know, I want to race with these people. I want to like see what other events there are that they can play with strangers, right? And then win NFT awards. And the Chill Hotel was more like people come in, they can relax, chill, you know, meet some cool people. It doesn't have to be anything extreme, you know, just fishing, right? Fishing and chat. And Chia is a very chill guy. Like if you hear his Discord channel, you guys can just talk for hours and forget time completely. And the very first one, the Coliseum, was actually the first video I did where I was trying to capture the excitement of PvP and stuff like that. So a lot of it is learning as we go, you know, learning as we go. See what different kinds of videos we can make. We have a fourth one that's about to come out, and that's Mitzi's Sugar Hotel. Where, you know, it's like finding mysteries in the hotel. So I kind of turn it around a little bit. I know this wasn't kind of the intended storyline, but I kind of turn it into like there's a dark history in the Sugar Hotel, and the mood is kind of like somber, kind of like it's kind of like grunge, you know. And then when it comes out, you'd be like, have you guys seen the horror movie The Ring?
No.
I think I've seen it, maybe.
Yeah, so it's gonna feel a little bit like that. You know, there's a dark mystery waiting to be uncovered. Are you the one that shall find all the missing pieces? I don't want to spoil too much, but that's the mood we're going for on that one. Yeah, and then fairly soon there's gonna be another video we're trying to punch out just in time for the NFT Kits gallery, right? So that
I
one's
hope you
gonna
know
have...
what you're doing. Like, I mean, this could go down in history as being awesome, or you could go down in history as being the dude who tried to demonize Mitzi. I don't know, man. Careful with that one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Miki is always asking me, "How's the video? How's the video?" And I'm like, "We're working on it." But here's the thing: we always share the video with the event organizer first before we go public. In fact, we have a lot of videos we've made that we've never actually made public. They're just unlisted, you know, and that's because they don't make the final cut, or the organizer says, "No, don't post it, don't make it public," because it's not like we ask their permission sometimes when we make these raw footages, and sometimes, you know, some parts of it don't come out right. We want to keep a good image of both the metaverse, Uplift World, and also for the event organizer, right? So if they in the end said no, don't make public, we just keep it to ourselves. Yeah, because we respect the fact that they're the ones that bring the event to us, right? We're just kind of there to document the whole thing and in a sense, make it also a fun project for our teachers and our students, and also our, I can never thank our pro video editor guy enough, even though he always comes to me last minute and like, can you just clean this up a little bit for me? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And honestly, like, I love what you do, and nobody does it better than what you guys do it. And I think the reason is because all of your videos, like, we see some great video makers, some great people who have done great footage and things like that. But like the 3 videos that I've seen of yours, they're all original and unique in their own way, right? Like there's different spices in there, right? Like some comedy, right? Like it's like you're at an international food festival and there's different like kicks and different sweetness to them all, right? And so I think that's really interesting. So like your creative process, like what are the ideas? Like do you have an idea of where it's going, or do you just kind of like throw all the video footage in there and get in a room like you're on a sitcom TV series and hash out like, okay, this is the footage we have, what do we do with it? Do we use these ideas? What's your process as a team to come up with these really original videos that aren't all the same, right?
Right. So it starts with me as the main storyboard writer. I come up with the mood to establish first, and then from that mood, from that story, then I start like discussing with the team. Like, here's the event, and here's how I think it could be run, and here's the storyline behind it I want to feature. What do you guys think? Like, what kind of raw footage should I take? What kind of photos do I need? What kind of angle shots? What kind of music selection should we prepare? This is a ton of planning stuff that goes on last minute like that. In fact, the one that was made for the Chia Hotel, I was actually on a business trip at a time, driving for 13 hours, and as soon as I landed in Vancouver, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta like put my whole rig together. Like right now, I'm gonna miss the event. So I hold my entire desktop set, full desktop, freaking heavy computer, and 3 monitors, and just before I even do anything, I jump into Uplift World and start recording that raw footage. But it was fast because we already know what kind of angles we need. We know what kind of shots we need, right? So I collect as much raw footages as I possibly can. Oh, there's the Rocket Gallery. So usually it could be anything ranging from 1 hour raw footage to 2 hours, sometimes 2 hours and a half. I don't think we ever gone through 3 hours of raw footage. That would just be too much for a video editor to even go through. And then we request then the pictures from the event organizers, who then submit the photo they want the most shown in the video to us. Yeah, then we go through like 3 rounds of revision, usually 2 to 3 rounds. So there's the first edit, no music, and usually it's just rough cuts, so we get a feel of it. Then there's a second edit where we're hashing in together the soundtracks. But we got to be really careful with soundtracks here because YouTube is merciless, brutal in copyright. We got copyright strike already on Facebook. I don't even know what they were striking us on. Like, if you can so much as hum a recognizable theme song, some kind of pop music, that alone will pick up by the algorithm, And I know that as a fact because I used to stream full time for another game called World Tanks, and I was humming. What was it? The Bittersweet Symphony, I think it was called, by The Verve. Yeah. I don't want to hum it right now because we could get a copy strike from that. And the Facebook bloody just killed my entire stream video. It was a 2-hour long tournament that I was recording for, and that 3 minute got the whole thing basically like warning and everything. So the audio soundtrack is that brutal part.
There was one. Some of our mates one time, they actually, I don't know how they did it, but they kept getting copyright striked on their own video that they own the rights to. Because,
yes.
They somebody else produced that song for them, and like they didn't know how to fix it. But, yeah. It's fun. So yeah, the Rocket Gallery says he'll donate 1 Magic Mind NFT for awesome video about the NFT Kids Gallery. There is a event coming up. Very soon.
There's promotional video contest going on that one too.
I like you a lot, Maki, but I'm gonna do something that I don't always do, that I don't normally
That's fine.
do. Yeah, I would encourage you guys to try to come up with better video content than the Roundtable Educators. I mean, give it a go. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to fail and you're not going to be able to do it. You know, who can beat Misaki and his Roundtable Educators at, you know, pure brilliance when it comes to video footage? I mean, I think 10 contestants, 10 people try it. Let's see what we can do. We love you, Misaki, but content is great content.
Yeah, right. I hope Gary gets in on this, because like Gary versus RT Educators battle on amazing videos would be very interesting indeed. Well, and even, you know, and I know he spent a lot of time on this, but Cowie coming in with that promo for the options, that was. You know, I didn't know he had any chops. I know he spent a lot of time on it, but it ended up being really good.
Yeah. If anything, I would say all the talented videographers out there, you know, we need to get together, and we have such a beautiful and wonderful world in Uplift World, the metaverse. We could literally stage an entire section of the plot to like the Marvel Universe version. Okay, that's gonna get copyrighted right now because I mentioned that.
Well, hold on though. Interestingly enough, like the guys that own the IP for Bad Days, I spent probably an hour and a half on the phone with them over the weekend, right? And they've got that plot in Thune. Any IP stuff and they're actually going to be they're minting a whole bunch of stuff on Ethereum. There you go. Yeah, it's interesting enough. Like, I'm literally talking to that guy. Jimmy was writing an article about them when we hadn't talked yet. Like, there was some weird disturbance in the force going on there. But that was awesome. Anyway, yeah. So like, we definitely have the capacity to use a lot of that stuff, right? And I mean, a build like they're minting on Ethereum now. So they're going to actually be in Ethereum. They would absolutely do, you know, a build contest about that stuff, and then, you know, get them a bunch of free promo and right. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff we could actually use.
We also got NFT movie guys involved too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing that I was really excited about. Like, we're gonna be part of history, document, you know, documentary of the things going on here. Yeah, so, you know, we should be making more videos about Uplift World, and if we can have something like, what's that, Universal Studio? Is that what that place is called? It's like a theme park with all the movie sets and stuff.
There's a Universal Studios in Japan. There's like I think there's a Paramount, like Canada's Wonderland is Paramount now. So like a bunch of them, tons of them all over the place.
I was saying we could really have a plot of land designed like that for people to create Minecraft movies out of. And these Minecraft movies, we might be laughing at it, but
oh man, I'm laughing because it's a great idea. Some of the old Minecraft video, like music videos, were great, right?
How long is it going to be before somebody actually does? Do you never mind Marvel or any of that stuff? Just like an Uplift freaking sitcom.
Yeah,
like that would be super funny and
like one that works. Not this show.
No.
Well, maybe here's something we could do. Maybe the next time we have a video like this, we could do it completely in our Minecraft characters in Minecraft.
I wonder why we don't do that already.
And the thing is, like, we can have a casual conversation like this, and then we would basically have a team of animators. They would just do the lip sync. It would be a ton of work. But it would be hilarious because we'll be in a sitcom, like exactly like the Letterman show almost.
Right.
Well, I mean, Hustle from the Hustle House does a really cool one with his the boring show, right? Like, he does a very similar thing with Jason and the Bored Ape. So yeah, definitely cool idea. So, but yeah, like, honestly, like please do come back. Like, it's been a really interesting conversation. I feel like we've only scratched the surface, right? Like, both Corey and I have had conversations with you or messages with you, and like, I know you got a lot of great ideas, and you're looking forward to when the DAO goes live and you know, contribute to that part of things as well. So I'm really excited, you know, have you plugged in. here today. We do have to like cut this short because I'm
No
not
problem,
short.
no
I mean, it's
problem.
been an hour, but we do have another show coming up. I put the link up in the descriptors above. We're going to be on with Nathan McCory in about 5 minutes from now. Love is the answer. Talking, about a variety of interesting things. So definitely tune in, share that link around, tweet that out, tweet this one out. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with, Maki, and of course Corey as well?
Just keep doing what you guys are doing. You guys are doing great. Follow the Bushido spirit. Just fight every day like there's no tomorrow. Right? It's a rather grim look of life, but that philosophy works for me because it really just whatever you gotta do today, you only got today to do it. So do it.
Well, it's like memento mori. I don't even know that it's necessarily grim, right? I think the biggest tragedy of human experience is also kind of the reason why we ended up doing so well, right? We chunk things until they become unconscious, and then we can use our higher executive function to do other things. That is how civilization showed up, right? Because we can develop habits. Now, the tragedy there is that most of our lives, even if you're conscious of this, is unconscious, right? You're running on automatic most of the time. And, I think that memento mori, remember that you're going to die, or the Bushido way is a way to habitually knock yourself out of that pattern of unconsciousness, right? Like every single moment that we can act with intention actually goes against the trend, right? And those build on each other. You can build amazing, amazing, amazing things when you're, operating in that way. Maybe, Jimmy, that's why it's so amazing hanging out with the Uplift, because it is this constant, cue to be intentional and to create. And that's kicking people out of or raising people's level of just, agency and conscious action. I don't know. We got to go. But thank you, Maki, for coming on and for being brilliant and for being part
just
of
one last word. Just one last word. For people who don't understand the concept of traditional Bushido, there is one book I recommend you guys to get on Audible, and it's the book of Hagakure. Okay? It is basically a collection of memoirs and conversation that famous Bushido warriors, samurais have left behind, and they just record everything into one book. Okay, and the book by Miyamoto Musashi, who's another great samurai, Gorin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings. That's another good read for you guys to look into. The writing, of course, are highly abstract and outdated, so take what you can out of it. It's like having a conversation with Confucius. Not everything is clear cut. You just gotta figure it out in your life. But I highly recommend those reads for people who wanna understand a little bit about what Bushido really is, other than just screaming samurais trying to cut down each other. Yeah, and with that, I really, really thank you guys for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks,
and
man.
I will stick around for the next show because I would love to hear what Lofty Sensor have to say. He makes great music.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Okay.
What's going on?